Oh, hey, everybody.
Oh, hi. Welcome back to the Area Nerdy One podcast. We're doing this a little earlier this week, so I hope you guys don't mind.
We are again sans Matt, which is fine, though, because we're talking about books, and I don't think that guy has read a word from a page in his life.
No.
And
I know for a fact that he once misspelled the word Matthew before.
I don't think I've ever seen him reading a magazine.
Yes, but he is, again, still on that diplomatic mission, which is, again, troubling because he's the one that has to go over all of that.
He's once again not here to defend himself as
Yeah.
we slander his ability to actually read.
We're punching downwards. And also, I like the thumbnail you put up. Very, like, early 2000s first world memes.
Right.
You know?
What do you want? My computer is mostly for work and stuff, so like
It really gives off, like, read books? Nah. We read books.
it's like if Ugandan Knuckles was on a, support your local library poster.
Exactly. But today we are going to be talking about something very interesting. We're going over the books that the new movies are going to be coming
Oh,
out.
buddy, I mean, it's never been a better time to be the author of a fantasy and or sci-fi novel series.
Yeah.
The big ones are, of course, Wheel of Time, which is coming out on Amazon. Thank you, Jeffy Bezos. And the new movie Dune. Look at that sandworm. Look at that
I
sucker.
gotta be honest with you. So, I saw the original Dune movie. And
The 1970 something one.
Yep,
Yeah.
and then I also saw the miniseries.
Yeah.
The miniseries had up to that then the best sandworms out
Right.
of anything I've ever really seen.
And that was like early 2000s, like Xena Warrior Princess fucking computer animation.
Exactly. No matter what you say about that series, it had good sandworms, but that looks amazing. The new sandworms, it looks incredible. How they stick the landing is going to be another issue because the original 1980s or 1979 film was notorious for being absolutely horrendous as far as being as a movie and an adaptation, and the miniseries was also reviled.
It was let's recap for the first one.
Yes.
Okay, so those of you guys who don't know, Dune is a book by Frank Herbert. Frank Herbert. It's basically, Wheel of Time is coming out too. So basically, you ask people like, what are the top 3 fantasy sci-fi books? It is Lord of the Rings, Wheel of Time, and Dune.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the top 3. Dune is definitely everyone's top sci-fi pick.
Dune is I would say, kind of a grittier version of Star Wars.
It's basically Game of Thrones meets Star Wars.
Yeah.
But
meets the Bible.
Meets the Bible. Yeah, meets
the Bible.
Meets its own religion.
Yeah.
And that way it's kind of like Lord of the Rings, because Lord of the Rings has its own like religion and shit.
Right.
The 1970 something movie is basically just bad Star Wars.
It is. They do really weird stuff with it.
Like the fact that the inner monologue narrates literally everything. The spice.
And I also realized when I watched it, because at a certain point, the main character, I genuinely forget his name. I honestly forgot.
Paul Atreides.
Yeah, gets can shout. Basically, he has unrelenting force.
He has the
Thume.
Yes,
he was trained by on the throat of the world, and he gets a Thume. And we haven't read the books yet, so I don't know.
That's a method. That's part of our TikTok.
Yeah.
We just put a TikTok out, so
please go out and vote on that.
I can't remember the last time I read one of the like a really like juicy, thick fantasy book.
Last time I read a juicy, thick fantasy book was in high school. It was Monster Blood Tattoo.
I read the first one of those guys. That bad boy. Okay, that's a lie. Okay, I remember the last time I read a fantasy book. It was the Edge Chronicles. I revisited them as an adult. Flawless. Anyway, but yeah, like I've been looking through. I go to bookstores and I love browsing the books, and I see like those freaking 900-page dictionary-sized fantasy books that people are putting out. But there's so many of them, and much like my problem I have with TV shows, I don't want to put a whole full like back-to-back week and a half of my life reading this book and have it be bad.
Right. But then you get the skill of realizing what bad writing is.
That's true.
I
I know what bad writing is. That's why I don't want to waste my time on it.
Yeah. For me, it's like I can only do about 5 pages a night because it takes me about 30 minutes because it takes me so long to read things.
Mm-hmm.
So like a book, like one of those dictionary-sized books, like Dune, is gonna take me a better part of a year to finish, or even like get halfway through. That's that's my main qualm.
The other thing is, I'm worried I'm gonna fall in love, and yeah, I just never be able to leave that world.
Also, you might fall in love with it and be like, "This is the best thing I've ever read," and then watch the show and then just be like let down.
Yeah.
That's actually something I wanted to bring up because one of the things for the Wheel of Time is it's going to be on Amazon, and this is a personal opinion of mine, but when Amazon adapts things that were books, they're so fucking boring. Oh my god. The Man in the High Tower, the first season is really good, and then afterwards it's just a slog to get through. It was genuinely painful to stay involved with it. You know, they have to they spread things out to make it, a serial.
Right.
But the way streaming works is that there's no like television breaks or anything like that. So it has to keep your attention throughout the whole thing, not just like in 15-minute increments.
And then leave you on that really good cliffhanger, so you gotta binge that next episode.
Yeah, you gotta binge that next episode, but it's just I don't feel like the writing is always there, especially with like 40-minute episodes. My God. Yeah. My God, Jimmy. My God. Man in the High Tower just was so boring. It was, there were so many times where it's just people standing around talking about absolutely nothing that has to do with the plot.
Like there's just like, oh yeah, I need groceries today. Is it gonna rain? Oh geez, should I bring an umbrella or just like a sweater today?
Yeah, basically
that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and like it's such self-important. Yeah, so that's the thing I have a lot of worries for going into this series.
Right.
Of course, it's up to you guys which book we will be reading or book series. If you really want us to see read Dune. Before we see Dune, it's gonna put our review off a little longer because we got to read that book.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we're if we start now, we could probably read at least 1 or 2 Wheel of Time books by the time it comes out. But yeah, we're gonna have to like put Dune on the shelf for a while until we finish that bad boy. Which, as we said, will take a while. I don't know what Matt's reading habits are, but I can't imagine that even with Dune, we'll get through that very quickly.
Yeah. Well, maybe we could do like one of those things, like a book report thing. We split the book up into 3 parts.
Please don't make me give a book report. I've been giving book report. Let's be honest here. I'm gonna wait until the night before and read the entire book front to back, soup to nuts, and write that essay the night before. I'm gonna put it off. That's just how I do.
I'm gonna spark notes that shit and then make up that presentation as I go along.
I'm gonna do the same thing I did with Romeo and Juliet in high school. I'm just gonna watch the theatrical version of that shit and write my whole thing about that. Like they didn't like that I basically just ripped off the what's his face, Leo DiCaprio version. But
no,
yeah,
well, you can't do much. It's the only good. It's the only good version.
It's a terrible version. Like
which is it's a story about 2 teenagers that are underage that kill themselves after about a week of knowing each other. So it's not exactly the greatest writing in the world.
Yeah. But you know what is greatest writing in the world? Apparently, what? Dune and Wheel of Time.
Yes. So Dune is world known for its superb storytelling and world building. One of its people basically rank that up there alongside Lord of the Rings, if not more than Lord of the Rings, because Lord of the Rings has a lot of questions to that.
Yeah, Lord of the Rings is having not gotten too much into the reading of Dune, but definitely consumed other types of media. Lord of the Rings is very vague, very super soft magic system, whereas Dune appears to be much more in depth and a hard magic. You know, it's more like a hard sci-fi system.
Yeah, it's sci-fi. It's kind of like it's basically it's sci-fi magic. It's magic with math essentially. Yes. It is still very interesting, and there is a vague mystical element, but it's kind of ambiguous. Whereas the show, the miniseries, and the movie version kind of went kind of like, yeah, this is kind of real magic kind of thing.
And like in Dune, it's more of like a metaphysical type. It's not really magic. It's just like metaphysics versus like, oh, it's magic. Bibbidi boppity boo, boom, boom, boom.
Exactly. And I am really excited to see the sandworms. I'm more excited actually to see the battle scenes.
Yeah.
Because at the beginning of the book and the movies, there is a major big battle in like an insurgency. That's like the whole point of the books. And I'm really excited to see if this is going to be one of a trilogy.
It is.
Well, you
It's
say that.
Well,
but-
it's okay. It's definitely a two-parter at least. So in an interview, the director, he's definitely first of all, the movie is called Dune Part 1, the one's coming out soon, and it ends with we will be back for we'll be back for Dune 2. We'll be back for another round. You thought you saw all of these sandworms. We haven't even scratched the surface of these bad boys. So yeah, there's definitely going to be at least 2 Dunes, which is good because this is definitely a 2-part story.
But I think the first Dune book is basically follows the first Dune movie.
It's
essentially
yeah.
that. So I don't know. So after this movie, I have no idea what's going to happen.
There's definitely going to be a second movie, and there's rumors of a third one called Dune Messiah, which I think, if I had to venture a guess, I'd say that like that would be where it starts taking off. Like we saw Dune the miniseries, right?
Yeah.
So there's like a whole franchise worth of material that comes after that. Like Frank Herbert wrote 25 books. No, not really. That's an exaggeration. He wrote a bunch of books.
About 6 to 7.
Yeah, it's a major saga. So they've got plenty of stuff to work with, and I think that Dune Messiah is probably going to start up with that.
And Wheel of Time, I don't know how many books are in that series, but it's quite a bit. It's not like a three-parter like Lord of the Rings, but it's long.
It's pretty dense. Yeah,
it's pretty dense. Along with that, I wanted to say that I forget which site is going to be having it, but there's going to be a Narnia series. Yep, there's going to be a Narnia series in the works. I'm pretty sure it's in pre-production where they're kind of shopping it around and seeing what'll work. But that's also something that they're working on.
So
basically, when you open this podcast show up today with if you are an author of a fantasy series, this is a good time to be alive. You were freaking right. This is it.
They're picking up everything now. Do you think it was The Witcher? Do you think The Witcher did that?
I don't think so. I think that after the Lord of the Rings stopped, especially with The Hobbit, there's no more Harry Potter. There's no more Twilight. Obviously, the best of all those.
It was basically couldn't get any better than Twilight.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, name one TV series or movie series that was better than Twilight. I'll wait. The Godfather has got nothing. Twilight has abs.
Does it?
Wolf Boy abs.
Oh, Wolf Boy abs.
Wolf Boy abs.
I forgot about him.
But I think there's not a lot for like kind of high and middle fantasy anymore. There's not really. There was going to be the plug for high fantasy with The Dark Crystal that was canceled. The Witcher kind of revived that, but it's also that show was expensive.
Yeah.
Too.
Speaking of Witcher season 2 coming out, there's another one for you.
Yeah, high fantasy everywhere and a great series. I'm mixed on the Witcher.
So what it looks like is basically the first season follows the first book, which is The Last Wish, which was really kind of a collection of, like you saw, a collection of short stories.
Right.
Versus, like, now it's going to start up where the second book was, and basically what it looks like the second book starts the coherent, singular story of Geralt of Rivia and...
Geralt.
Geralt?
Is it Geralt? It's Geralt.
Geralt?
Geralt.
I've been saying Geralt.
Gerald's?
Geralt? Anyway,
Jerry's.
It's I haven't watched that show in a while.
Yeah. So my views on The Witcher the first season is basically a high end sci-fi, like the Sci-Fi Channel series. It's not that good, it's not that great, but it's also not bad. It made up for it with the violence and the nudity, which wasn't really I don't really like a lot of nudity in my shows, which I know I'm a prude, but
since when?
I think they did it really well. It wasn't overbearing. They kind of used it to showcase like characters and not just like overwhelming. I'm harping too much on this, but thin ice, bro. Yeah, thin ice, very thin ice. But what really drew me into like the story and like the filmmaking and everything was how they told their story. It wasn't in chronological order, and then after like seeing the whole season, putting all the pieces in the correct spot.
Right,
which
right.
was really interesting to me. I liked it a lot.
And it really only like falls into place in like the last 10 seconds of the show.
Yep, and I am a big Nilfgaardian Empire fanboy.
Nilfgaardian. Are they the bad guys?
I'm always on the side of the bad guys.
I mean, that works when you're a Star Wars fan. When you're a Star Wars fan, they basically have trained you to be on the side of the bad guy for the whole time. Because who else is cooler than Darth Vader? Who else is cooler than Darth Maul? Etc.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look at the world that Nilfgaard inhabits, an anarchy, monster-filled area, and they're uniting everything under their banner instead of having a collection of Holy Roman Empire-esque states.
Yeah, I didn't really get a ton of that because
they didn't really build up like the factions.
Yeah, much. Exactly. So maybe that's another book I'm going to read. But that's apart from our Wheel of Time Dune book. Because those things are going to take up so much of my brain space, and I already have so little to rent out.
Also, you like everybody likes what's her name, the female witch.
Why am I blanking on this?
Yeah, why are we blank? Why am I?
We did the research on this.
It's so people who are watching. That's the problem with these like fantasy
Yennefer.
These fantasy books and series. There's so many fucking names. Yennefer. She basically goes to a school for witchcraft and wizardry, and they kidnap and turn people into eels to use as batteries. So she's a bad guy.
But is good.
But no, is bad.
But
it's very bad.
Is Yennefer. Yeah, so it is somewhat like Game of Thrones. It's much more morally ambiguous world that they inhabit, and they use the sex and violence as more of a storytelling than like a lot of like movies and TV shows
as a hook.
Yeah, they tend to throw it in there to be a little bit more gratuitous. There is what else we want to talk about here, bro? I mean,
we got to talk about the new Lord of the Rings.
Oh, that's right.
Coming out on Amazon. It looks amazing. And I did look at
that. Look at that art. Look at that.
Look at that. The same thing. I still have the same reservations as Wheel of Time. I think it's going to be very expensive, and I think the writing and the plot and the pacing is going to take a hit for that.
Here's the thing, though. You know how Netflix has a bad habit of making these awesome shows, but they are just too expensive and their business model doesn't support it, and then they cancel it a season in, much to the chagrin of all the fans?
Yep.
Amazon has that Daddy Bezos rocket money, so they can keep that budget going for 15 seasons in a movie if they want.
Yeah, 15 seasons in a movie, but again, they just like, all right, I'm going to have a positive outlook on this.
Okay.
And if I see Sauron, it's going to be worth it.
Like
at any point.
Like, are you looking forward to more of the Dark Lord Sauron or the Bay Sauron, who's still like the deceiver?
Both. If I can have hypothetically, I'm not condoning anything, but if I have enough to have a waifu Sauron, that'd be nice.
Does he ever impersonate a female character?
He doesn't need to.
Fair.
But yeah, he's supposed to be in if you're watching and you haven't read like the Silmarillion or don't know the lore behind Sauron, in the first stages, when he became like
Silmarillion,
it's the Salmonrillion. Shaman shrill.
Jared, don't eat that undercooked meat. You'll get Silmarillion.
But he's not like the big dark figure that you see in the movies. He is actually looks like a fair Elven.
Yeah, he is.
Person.
What's his name? Sauron, alias.
We are blanking on the names.
I mean, the
today.
fact that we remember this shit exists at all, then Anatar,
and he's the one that basically brings about the fall of Numenor.
Yeah.
Single-handedly, he's Littlefinger. He's what Littlefinger wish he was.
Yeah, he's what Palpatine wish he was, because like, Melkor, his boss, the big bad.
The big bad.
Yeah, the big bad. He goes through. Well, we're gonna circle back to that. So Melkor was like, he's basically the Satan of Lord of the Rings world, and he has this big, huge battle and like tries to take Middle Earth by force. Basically, he's the one that like creates the Balrogs and the dragons and stuff.
And he
and orcs.
extinguishes one of the lights of the light trees.
Exactly. So he's the big bad,
Oh, yeah.
but he was defeated, and he is defeated. He gets chained in darkness, and read this, read the Silmarillion.
Yes, it's actually far more interesting. So basically, if you liked Lord of the Rings, that is the quite literal tip of the iceberg.
Exactly.
Of
So
the proverbial iceberg. If we saw something of Morgoth, that'd be nice too.
yeah, more. All right. So my point is that then Sauron decides to take the rule of two approach, where he just kind of like flies under the radar and sneaks in there and gets in a position of power and starts schmoozing, and that's how he comes to power before he reveals himself. So he gets in there and he, creates the rings of power. He's like, I got this bling for you guys. It's not a mind control device. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, but then like his whole plan kind of backfires when only the men really come under his control, and then even then it's just the kings.
I love it. It's like, oh, the men were converted to Nazgul, and the elves realized the deception and they hid their rings away, and like the dwarves were just literally too stubborn for the rings to work on them.
So in The Hobbit, the movies, there's that plot to get the rings
Right.
actively. So what was that about? Was he trying to get the rings back and then try to do something else?
I think so. I don't remember if they ever explained why he wanted the rings back. Did Sauron want the
Rings back.
elven rings? There we go. Tolkien, apparently he wanted to use the rings to control races. Blah blah blah.
But it doesn't say why he wanted them back. That was in order to control the races. That's why he gave them out. Why is he being an Indian giver? I think that's a racist term. I'm sorry, I just said it. I didn't. No.
Okay. Blah blah blah. Dwarves prove untamable by its means. All the more it's. Okay. So. Okay, and for the same reason, the lives not affected by it, to live longer, shorter because of it. All the more they hate the possessor of the rings. Wait. Oh, here it goes. For the dwarves had untamable by means. The only power over them that the rings wielded was to inflame the hearts of gold and precious things. They were filled with wrath, desire, blah blah blah. Okay, but they were made to resist. Well, he wanted the dwarf. It says Lord of the Rings Appendix A, Doran's Folk. So it looks like he wanted the dwarven rings back because they didn't work on them, and basically they're rings of power. So basically they have this power, but he's not able to control them. So the rings actually did give power because, as we saw,
Gandalf has one of them for fire, right?
Yeah, and the Lady of Lorien, what's her name?
God, why don't we
Galadriel.
Galadriel
is actually able to use her ring of power.
Yeah.
So people are extremely powerful people are able to resist them. So they actually do give power, and people are able to use them. And he wanted the ones back that didn't actually work controlling the people.
Well, it did say that it did inspire greed in the dwarves, which kind of would explain the dragon sickness of Thorin's grandfather.
Yes.
Which I thought that was kind of like the point. Like, even though the rings didn't work on the dwarves, but they're serving their purpose by keeping them where they are, so they wouldn't help each other.
Yeah.
Like when
and there's
Dane Ironfoot comes to their rescue, comes to aid his cousin. He doesn't really bring a lot of his men.
Right. And there's a theory that the Arkenstone actually had ring-like qualities in it. So that's why everyone was so jazzed up about it.
Except apparently Dane Ironfoot, because
he's Billy Connolly is a freaking Scottish dwarf warlord.
Exactly.
Needed more of that shit, I tell you what.
But I mean, again, even though the rings worked on the men, nothing really came about it. He just got like 9 cool servants, and then that was about it.
Well, they don't mention who the Nazgul are. So there's a lot of speculation that there's a lot of speculation that the Witch King was the last king of Numenor, the great king of Numenor. And you see that in Shadow of War and Shadow of Mordor. There's flashbacks where you see the Nazgul's lives, but those aren't canon.
Yeah, but still, the point is that their hearts were corrupted, but then they just didn't really do anything beyond that. Like, what I'm saying is they were supposed to, like, go to war for Sauron and then, help him take over Middle Earth, but that didn't really pan out.
Right.
They just kind of died and became Nazgul.
Maybe that's why he wanted all of the rings of power back, because they weren't working how he intended them to.
And maybe it would help him regain his physical form or more power while he's in his spiritual form.
True.
In his air form.
A little bit of movie trivia. So remember when in the extended edition of The Hobbit, Battle of the Five Armies, when Gandalf is played by the incomparable Sir Ian McKellen.
Oh my God, I love him.
He's the best. So when he's getting like tossed around and about to get his hand bifurcated to get the ring back, that orc was the original character design for Balg in that movie.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, see, I thought that Balg had an interesting character. It just, why all CGI?
Because all the orcs were CGI in that one.
There were some.
There were a couple of close-up ones, but
but most of them were.
Yeah, he was probably the most. Balg was probably the most intense character design we've seen on an orc, except for maybe Azog.
Azog was a good character though.
Yeah, but he was the most inhuman, deformed orc that I think we've seen so far.
So, Balg, as far as the canon of the movies, Balg is the son of Azog.
Right.
So
yeah, that's in the books too.
That's in the books. So there are orc women.
Let's not get into that because that's a whole thing. That's a whole thing. We're here to talk about books.
You know what? You can't talk about these adaptations without talking about the previous adaptations. Yeah. The cartoon version of The Lord of the Rings and the cartoon version of The Hobbit.
The Rankin Bass ones.
Oh, my favorite song of all time from any cartoon is "If There's a Whip, There's a Way."
That's your freaking deep track bop.
Yeah, it's a bop about the working conditions of the modern worker. There's a whip, there's a way. So fine, get off my back. Fine. What are you? Would you pick some bullshit Land Before Time song?
Well, now you got me thinking about it. I was gonna say, freaking the first second of Lion King, where it's like, not Savannah.
Oh, you're so basic. You're so basic. I went into the deep vault. I went to the dark mines of despair.
There's a reason that basic works. It's because everybody likes it.
I woke up the Balrog, going down to get that little nugget of memory and bringing it up, losing my good friends in the skirmish there, buddy. And you went right to Gondor, into the vaults, where all the basic knowledge was apparently for everybody.
Okay, let's get back into book talk, I guess.
Also, there's just it's just like a bibliography on the ring that nobody talked about.
A what?
In Lord of the Rings, the bibliography on the ring, like what it was, how to find it, and everything. And Gandalf just goes there, can just go, even with the steward being a dick, just goes into the vault and just reads it up.
Well, he's okay. I'll have to dissect this because this is a little bit of a thing. So basically, he goes in and he's basically what he's doing there is he's looking through all the old scrolls of history and people writing down through the ages. And basically, if I recall correctly, some king wrote down I had this ring and I think it might be the One Ring, and it has words on it when there's fire, and that's how he is that's the only thing. So it's really kind of it's not here's where it is, but
yeah.
Let's get back to let's see. We talked about Dune a bit. We talked about Witcher a bit. We've talked about Wheel of Time.
How do you think that these are gonna hold up?
Okay, so start in front. Let's start from the top and work our way down. Wheel of Time.
Okay.
It looks like Witcher-esque. It looks like it's very much kind of a copy of The Witcher as far as feel.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I have anything wrong with that, but I'm definitely getting that vibe from it. And I honestly think I'd just rather read the book first with that one. Okay. That's kind of the vibe I'm getting, because I'd rather have my imagination take me there than have the Amazon show build it for me.
Right. And then it's a little bit more fun to go through a series that you've already read the books rather than watch the series and then read the books. And
Exactly.
Okay.
Witcher, it's the opposite. I'd rather watch the show first than read the books.
Okay. You don't want to play the games first?
I would play the games first, but like I say, my current computer doesn't really have the horsepower for it.
Your current computer could fit inside of my computer.
I know, it's awesome. So, The Witcher, I think it's going to go really well. It's already kind of a viral, like, sleeper hit series from last year. Henry Cavill is cast perfectly. He understands the assignment with, like, every nerdy role he takes.
Every single role. I've never seen him just, like, phone it in and just, like, show up. Even, like, the movie Man from Uncle was kind of doomed from the start because no one was really it was gonna be so niche, and like the studio didn't have any real faith in it.
Yeah.
And Henry Cavill just brought this unabashed charisma to it, and I love it.
Right. Going down from that, we got Lord of the Rings, Amazon. I think it looks like it's gonna be lush and amazing. There's no way they can't have like a top-notch production, at least with this one, because as we recall, Lord of the Rings broke down so many barriers. Like it completely went above and beyond when it comes to production value. It's especially for the time, but it still holds up today. They're going to have to recreate that to have any sort of an effect.
Would you say that Lord of the Rings, especially for people like us, was like their gateway into high fantasy, and basically this show has a lot of shoes to fill?
Oh yeah. Oh,
not just big shoes to fill. I mean, a lot of shoes to fill.
Oh yes, very much. It's not only going to be because when Lord of the Rings came out, it was the only game in town. Like besides maybe Harry Potter at the time. But at the time, and for years after that, people were trying. Like, trying
to catch lightning in the bottle.
Exactly. Remember they made that Golden Compass movie? It was basically like Narnia and the Golden Compass. They were basically billed as the next Lord of the Rings saga.
Yeah.
But nothing has come even close. So
also, his Dark Material is supposed to be very, very good, based on the Golden Compass.
Yes. All right, and let's bring it right down to Dune. Frank Herbert's Dune, starring the Sandworms. So,
is anybody else in it besides Sandworms?
No, it's just the Sandworms.
It's just Sandworms.
It's a retelling of Frank Herbert's Dune, but all of the main characters are. It's from the Sandworms' point of view.
That would be actually like a play that they're putting on.
it'd be an off Broadway like deconstruction of Dune. So
I'm a sandworm, and I sand yearn for a greater life than this.
That's actually pretty good.
Dirt along with spices. I just wanted some girl to give me nices.
Okay, that wasn't that
good, but
good.
I was going through it.
It's got to be worked out a little bit.
I was channeling Newsies for a little bit there.
I can tell that your girlfriend is in fact a theater major. Yeah.
Yes, we watched Into the Woods. I hated it. It didn't make any sense.
You seem to have picked up a knack for musicals, though.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I mean, my favorite musical is Annie, and you know that for a fact. You caught me at Bleed Big Red.
Everyone bleeds red. That's not a thing. Everyone bleeds red. So, all right, next. So what do I think? I think it's going to be... I'm going to see it in theaters just because of the visual value. It looks like it's going to be a feast for the eyes. I already know what's going to happen in Dune. So unless they, decide to tweak the formula a little bit and, really throw a curveball at me, I'm really just watching to see how they retell Dune with better special effects.
Now, do we have the release dates for The Wheel of Time, Lord of the Rings, and Dune, respectively?
Well, let's take a look here. Dune release date. October 22nd. So that's coming up.
That's coming up quick.
Yeah, so that's... And then let's see here. Let's go with Lord of the Rings. That is... Come on, September 2nd, 2022. So we're looking at a year out, yeah.
Same thing. And what about Wheel of Time?
Wheel of Time is going to be released.
It looks like it's just in 2021. It doesn't look like they have a release date yet.
Yeah, they haven't. Yeah, Wheel of Time
release date. Yep, 2021. It's gonna be this year.
They don't have much longer though. They gotta get on that shit.
Yeah, I think it's just because of production has always been up in the air, especially this year.
And then what was the last one here? Witcher. Yeah, so Witcher. Yeah, Witcher.
Season 2 release date.
Yep, here we go. I mean, this is all up there. December
17th. So probably all these are going to be late in the year, if they're going to come out this year. Speaking of adaptations, are you going to go see The Green Knight?
I am going to go see The Green Knight. I don't know how that legend ends. I know like the first 5 minutes basically of that legend, and it sounds bonkers, and I can't wait to see how it actually turns out.
Yeah. It's for me. It's I love like folklore and like figuring out where folklore comes from. That's why I like cryptids.
Yeah.
And it seems like from the readings I've done is the whole headless motif of like headless horsemen and headless stuff, at least for like Anglo-Saxon traditions, stem from the Green Knight.
That story.
Interesting.
Because so Washington Irving's famous headless horseman voiced by Bing
Crosby.
Yep, is from the Green Knight originally.
Yeah. However, in the Washington Irving story, he doesn't hold his head. In some versions of the King Arthurian legend, the Green Knight has his head by his side for the rest of the story. In some stories, he puts it back on.
Huh, interesting.
Which, I didn't realize this until a week ago. Adventure Time. When Fern comes back...
You didn't know
I didn't realize that. I was like, damn, this seems familiar. Yeah. And then I was like laying there in my bed. I was like, damn, that seems familiar. I should go see The Green Knight. Damn, that seems familiar. Oh, shit.
But, seriously, though, the crew for Adventure Time, they seem like they would be the type of crew who would be like, hey, look at this legend about a knight whose head gets cut off, but he doesn't die. Let's put that in our children's show.
And let's make every child and young adult just weep.
Exactly. Oh, God. Right? God damn.
Yeah,
Adventure Time. Goddamn, Pendleton Ward. So
you didn't need to go that hard, but you did, and we appreciate you for that.
So how's Dune? I didn't say how Dune's going to do. I think Dune's going to be good. I think it's going to be a visual feast for the eyes. I think that it's going to introduce a lot of people to it, and I think it's going to be a fun experience to see it all around.
I think all of these are going to do very well. I think I'll be bored for the Wheel of Time because I think they're going to stretch it out a little bit. I'm anticipating Lord of the Rings and Dune a lot. I want them to be like the original Lord of the Rings, just opening up these worlds to people that usually might not, be into that kind of thing.
Right.
That's what I found for Lord of the Rings. You have people that don't really like high fantasy, don't really like Harry Potter or Game of Thrones, but they love Lord of the Rings. It's fantasy enough to be super, but not, but grounded enough to be invested.
Right, exactly.
And of course, that was down to the direction of Peter Jackson as well. And I don't know if he was really consulted on the Lord of the Rings.
Right. So, we'll have to see how that one turns out.
Yeah.
So, and we'll see how this TikTok turns out. By the next episode, next Friday, we're gonna cut off the voting, and whoever, whatever one is, the one wins. Chosen, that's one we're going to read, either Dune or Wheel of Time. So check us out on TikTok and put your vote in.
Yeah, put your vote in. Give us a comment on any other book suggestions, or if you've seen, honestly, if you read the Golden Compass books and saw his Dark Materials, let me know what you think, because I'm very interested in checking out that series.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in.
Yes, thank you.
Be sure to read those books for that summer book club, and get your free personal pan pizza from Pizza Hut, and save up for that book fair this fall.
I remember those. Those are the most terrifying memories of my childhood. Is during the books drive things. The kids would read 6 or 7 books during the summer, and I was trying to get through one.
Right. Yeah, if whatever you guys end up voting, while I'm at the book fair getting the next issue of Harry Potter and Captain Underpants, I'm also going to pick up either Dune or Wheel of Time.
Or those sick ass car posters.
Right? Oh god, I didn't even know what a Ferrari was. I just knew it was friggin' bomb ass.
Do you remember? This is gonna be a mine. Just got to go right into the vault. Okay.
Yeah.
Those tarantulas that were supposed to be able to climb up the wall if you threw them against it.
Yeah.
Those never worked.
No, those weren't a thing. No.
Yeah, they didn't work.
No.
They jipped me.
Yeah. So they cost you. You begged your mom for the $45.
Yep.
Yeah, and mom, I mean, mom, she'd be like, okay, guys, $45 for a sticky spider sounds like a lot to me, but you're my son, so
yeah.
Thanks,
Instead
mom.
of going to the book drive, the book. What is it? The book. It had a specific name.
Book fair.
Book fair. Yeah, go to the book fair. Don't get a book.
Yeah,
that was the peak of my existence.
exactly.
And there was an elementary school book fair, and they were like selling books like second grade reading level, and then like Inkheart.
That's a bit of a downer, isn't it?
Yeah, and also it's like 600 pages long.
Yeah, honestly though, like people, I remember I read Harry Potter as a kid, and people would be like, "Oh my God, it's a huge 900-page book," and I'd be like, "Yeah, I'm a really good reader." And I look back at those things, and they're like double spaced, and the font is super huge.
And there are pictures.
There are pictures.
There are pictures in that book.
I'm like, this was not a difficult read. I don't know why people thought I was so smart. Anyway, but you guys will be smart if you read books.
Oh, yeah.
Let us know what books we need to read to be smart. And thank you guys so much for watching. We will be streaming again next week. Hopefully Matt will be back, but stay tuned to see what's up. Thank you guys so much. This has been Jimmy.
This has been Jarrett.
And we